Hello everyone, welcome back to Allcarnews, and yes, we have finally been able to get the all-new Dodge Charger Daytona on the channel for our traditional 1 week review. And yes, before we even start the review, I've seen everything that you guys think about this all-new Dodge Charger, specifically in its current electric form. I've seen the love, I've seen the dislikes, but now that I've had it here for a week for review, driving it around for hundreds and hundreds of miles, I have my own opinions on this car, and I hope to share that throughout the course of this video. And I'll try to explain why I think in this electric state as it is right now, it's a little bit more of a super GT car versus a muscle car. And I think a lot of the marketing around the vehicle that Stellantis and Dodge are currently doing just might be misguiding a lot of opinions on the current state of this vehicle. But I want to emphasize the current state of this vehicle because this is the beginning of the all-new Charger, and there is a lot to come. So I'm going to break down all of that in this video today, as well as a full tour and review of all the interesting and cool details of this vehicle and why I still think you should give this car some hope, because like I said, there is a lot to come, and this is just the beginnings of the all-new Dodge Charger. Let's go dive in. So what's under the hood and even the platform of this all-new Dodge Charger? So, well, under the hood, as this is the Dodge Charger Daytona, which signifies it is electric, and this is the Scat Pack model as well, we have a lot of power, but this is riding on the all-new Stella Large architecture that will be underpinning a lot of vehicles from Jeep, upcoming Chrysler potentially, as well as Dodge, and maybe even Ram vehicles down the road as well. But this is the electric version of this architecture, and as we know, this platform can support both electric and gas powertrains, which this vehicle will be getting quite soon. And Dodge already, in the 2 model years that this car has been out, and I only see 3 now with 2026, so much has changed with the lineups. It's getting a little bit confusing, but this is how we have it for right now, and it's a pretty unique platform, and it's pretty big as well in its current state. This vehicle is around 5.6 inches bigger than the previous gen Charger sedan, and this is the coupe version. The 4-door version of this vehicle is actually pretty much the same. It just adds 2 more doors. And as you may be able to see under the hood here, there's nothing. There's just an engine cover, some kind of racetrack plastic style stuff over here to cover up everything. So there's really not much to see under this particular hood, but soon there will be, as this vehicle will be getting the 2 6-pack variants. So those will be coming with the GME twin turbocharged 3-liter inline 6 engine, sending power to, I think, all 4 wheels as standard through an 8-speed automatic gearbox, up to 550 horsepower. And you have to remember that all that weight from that battery pack will be gone. So you're going to want to slash down that weight by a lot, by a few hundred pounds. With that large turbocharged engine, I think that's going to be really nice. Is there some hope for a Hemi coming this down the road? All I have to say is I think some Dodge engineers are really working hard to make that happen. I hopefully crossing my fingers here. But in this particular application now, it's already pretty potent. We're making 670 horsepower in this particular Scat Pack Stage 2, which is pretty wild. And it comes standard with all-wheel drive. And how Dodge has split this up is almost a 50-50 style weight distribution and almost power distribution. It's making around 335 up front and out back, split between those 2 permanent magnet motors, which I think is a pretty nice split. And depending on what drive mode you're in, it actually operates a little bit differently. Eco mode will prioritize rear-wheel drive. Auto mode is kind of balancing the power out between the 2. There's also snow and wet mode to help increase traction, as well as a track and drag strip mode, which is going to prep the battery, increase cooling, and make sure all the power is getting to the ground as easily and quickly as possible. And that's where I think it's a little bit more of a super GT versus a pure out muscle car. It's a little bit more refined, not as easy to get sideways, not as easy to go wild, but it's still wicked fast in the straights and has that wild, big muscle car stance and presence. But let's go see how the charging performance is, as we are having an EV here. So how does this all-new Dodge Charger Daytona charge? Well, our charge port door is going to be located on our driver's side, actually, and popping it open, it is a pretty big door. And one thing I will note is that it's pretty far in from the edges of the vehicle. Typically, we like to see chargers a little bit closer to the edge, so it's easier to kind of use across different charging networks. But I actually was able to use this on a V3 Tesla supercharger with the shorter cables, and it still actually worked surprisingly not that bad. So I guess it's okay. As you can see here, it's pretty easy to access. There's no power operation, so that's not going to go bad down the road or something like that. And actually, this is pretty good. We have illumination in here. We have style lights over here for our charge status, and we have an easy door to open for our full CCS fast charging. Speaking of which, it can actually do around 183 kilowatts of speed, and it shockingly sustains that pretty much throughout. So it kind of doesn't taper off too much as you get higher in the battery pack in terms of state of charge, of which this battery pack is around, I think, 100 kilowatt hours. I think around usable, it's around 94, 95 kilowatt hours. So not too bad in terms of the size, though you have to remember this is a performance focused vehicle. It's big, it's heavy, it's got massive steamroller tires on it essentially. So range on this Scat Pack model is around EPA estimated 240 miles. If you're in a drag or track mode, it's actually going to drop down to like 190, 200. Though over my course of week of testing, shockingly, it's not that bad. I've been getting around 260 miles of range, even with blending between all those modes, and a shockingly good miles per kilowatt hour efficiency number of around 3.5 up to 3.7 in some cases. So it can actually be quite efficient when you're not really on it all the time. And it also has a pretty high level 2 charger up at around 11 kilowatts. So pretty good numbers all around that front there. And it actually charges quite fast from around 20 to 80% in just around 28 to 30 minutes. So you can be really on this car all day on the weekend and then go quick charge it, grab a coffee, and you'll have almost a full state of charge ready to keep going. So keep that in mind, but of course, always remember there's still going to be a gas tank right back here very, very soon. Now, one of the most subjective parts of any new vehicle is its design, and in my own opinion, I actually think this all-new Charger looks visually really, really good. I think the four-door version may look a little bit better, though I haven't really seen that one in person just yet. Though overall, this is a really, really nice futuristic design for the Charger nameplate, and we have it in the optional Blue-to-Crisp shade for 2025. I think it's around a $500 option, but I really like what they've done on this vehicle. I think it looks really similar to the concept vehicle as well, which is awesome, and there's a lot of unique styling elements on this vehicle. So up front here, of course, we have that signature Charger-esque design harking back way to the beginnings of the Charger nameplate. So we have that really nice long horizontal front fascia over here. We have these really nice slim LED headlights over here, but I don't think these headlights are as distinctive as the previous gen Charger or even Challenger, to be fair. I wish they did a little bit something cooler with the daytime running light design, though I like how low this front end is and how kind of bold and muscular it is. It really gives this car a very strong presence. Now, what Dodge has also introduced on the Daytona models, which are the EVs only, which I believe, is this new R-Wing design up here. This is a patent pending technology by Dodge, and they say it aims to reduce front lift by 30% and front drag by around 3%. So all to give you a better aerodynamic styled vehicle, as well as improving handling and performance at speed. And it also just looks so cool how you can just see straight through the front hood of this vehicle. And it's really cool how low and down this kind of dips in here. Though I believe for the gas engine versions, this might be gone just to give you a little bit more hood space. So it's going to be a little bit more flush with the rest of the vehicle. Nonetheless, though, the shaping of this is really, really nice. We also have that Fratzog logo over here, which does glow. And this particular one is not getting the full front light bar as it doesn't have that package, unfortunately, though I think it still looks quite nice, even with these just side headlight pieces over here. Coming down here, we actually are having active aero flaps behind this lower grille area to help, again, improve aerodynamic efficiency or open them up and increase cooling for the batteries, the motors, if you are, using this car to its performance capabilities. This one also is getting radar adaptive cruise control, so we have that sensor hidden nice down there. And like I said, all these Dodge Charger Daytonas, at least as of now, and I don't think they're going to change this, comes standard with the wide body. So we have this really nice flared fenders at all four corners of this vehicle, which I think is really cool. And since we have the track package, we're also getting a camera up there, which you can plug a USB stick in the center of the vehicle and use as a drive experience recorder. Now, coming over to the wheel and tire side of this all-new Dodge Charger Daytona, this particular Scat Pack model is getting some pretty massive wheels and tires. So we're actually getting up to 20-inch wheels on this vehicle, and I think they look cool. I'm excited to see what comes down the road in terms of wheel options for this. I'd like to see kind of like a brass monkey style finish at some point, but these are nice and tasteful in this kind of satin chrome finish here. We also are getting pretty massive tires. So we have 305 width tires up front, 325 out back, and these are not the actually most aggressive tires you can get. These are Goodyear, I think, sport tires. You can also get a more summer-oriented tire versus this all-season one. And honestly, they work pretty much fine. These really do a great job of putting all of that traction, especially combined with the all-wheel drive. And another thing that Dodge has thought about with this vehicle, since it weighs so much, is at each corner we have 16-inch brakes, Brembo brakes on this particular one, thanks to this track package. And let me tell you, they stop shockingly well for how big this vehicle is. So thank you guys for actually putting proper brakes on an EV. They work great, and they actually are good for performance applications because you can feel like you could stop the vehicle without any sort of fade. Since we also have the track package, we're also getting these dual valve adaptive dampers on the vehicle, which are also really, really good. You can really feel the difference between the comfort street style mode versus a track mode. It really does stiffen up the vehicle a lot and is a very noticeable thing on the road when you're driving. And of course, since this is the Scat Pack model, we're getting that signature Scat Pack logo right here with that Stage 2 upgraded package, which is getting you all that full 670 horsepower. So it's nice to display it right on the fender of your all-new Dodge Charger Daytona EV. Now, since we have also the sun and sound package, we're getting a full panoramic glass roof that unfortunately does not open and also does not have a sunshade, which I wish it did because it gets really hot inside of that cabin. But that does mean we get a massive subwoofer back there as part of an upgraded, I think, 18-speaker Alpine audio system, which actually sounds pretty good. Now, part of this track package, we're also getting this black spoiler up here. If you don't get the track package, it's actually just a flush rear end, so you might want to consider that because I think this really enhances the looks of the all-new Dodge Charger Daytona. And I also like the rear end of this vehicle. It's really nice with this full width light bar. Again, we find that Fratzog style logo in the center over there, illuminated as well, which I think is pretty cool. But down here in part of the lower gloss black bumper area over here is the famous Fratsonic exhaust system. And of course, that means there is a set of this cool chambered exhaust speakers underneath here that make a truly wild sound. Now, another great feature of the all-new Dodge Charger, and this is going to apply to both this coupe and the sedan, is it's actually a fastback. So you just press this little button here to open it, and well, you're going to note on this one that it does not have a power tailgate, which is part of the Plus group, which for some reason our tester did not come optioned with. So this actually is incredibly heavy, and I really wish we had the power option. So take that in mind. Definitely go try it out in person and decide if you want to opt for that near $5,000 package, which you totally should. But nonetheless, you get so much cargo space in this vehicle. I honestly don't think you need an SUV. There's like over 22 cubic feet of cargo space behind the second row. If you do need more cargo space, fold the second row down. I think you're getting over 30 cubic feet of cargo space, which is honestly crazy for a coupe. And upcoming with the sedan, you're going to get pretty much around the same-ish cargo space, which is really, really impressive. And it's pretty good in terms of depth, though, of course, in terms of height, that sloped roofline may make it a little bit more difficult for some taller objects. Though, honestly, you could fit a lot of stuff in here. I honestly feel like I could just like lay down back there. It's so big. Unfortunately, though, under the floor, there is really no other storage. That is taken up by the subwoofer, as well as I believe like a battery pack is back there, a 12-volt battery. So there is that to take in mind, though this is still definitely a really, really large trunk space. And I'm glad that it has so much trunk space as well. I just wish it had that Plus group to close it because it's a little bit heavy and difficult to do by hand all the time. Since this is a coupe and not the sedan, which will just have shorter front doors and then rear doors back there, we might as well see how that rear seat space is since we have such a big wheelbase and just overall size of the vehicle. Now, getting into the rear seats is pretty easy, actually. So all you have to do is pull this little latch back here. The seats will power move forward for you. And shockingly, these are actually some really big rear seats for a coupe. We're gonna hop back here. As you can see, we have the demonic red seat option, and all we have to do is pull the seats back for us right here, and they will actually slide back into position. And if it does go too far back, it will kind of hit my knees right there, and then proceed to move a little bit forward. I think the driver can move a little bit further back than that, but as you can see in this position, it's actually quite spacious. We have seat back pockets over here, even though we have these really aggressive sports seats in the vehicle, and there is a kind of insane amount of space back here. I actually have a little armrest back here that is not hard plastic, thank you Dodge, a little storage cubby back here, and a huge rear window. But obviously when we have the sedan coming, we'll have a full window that can go up and down. We also are getting heated rear seats back here, which is really quite nice for the two outboard seats, two USB-C ports, as well as 2 air vents back here, and all pretty nice, tasteful center console section. We do have a hump in the floor, as we know there will be a combustion version of this vehicle coming soon, so that will be for that rear drive line. And honestly, this is a really comfortable place to be. They're really nice, big suede and leather seats back here. I love the red color. They're actually very supportive and huge. We also have a center armrest over here with 2 cup holders, and like this car, I said, it's so big you can literally fit 3 people back here if you really did have to. I can sit in this center area. I'm 6 feet tall as well, and you can see the 2 side passengers still actually have plenty of space back here. We even have like microphones and stuff up here so everyone can hear you in the vehicle, as well as LED lighting back here as well, which is quite nice. And the other talk back here is, of course, headroom. I'm sitting in the center, and yeah, my head's scraping just a little bit on the center panel back here, but I do fit. If I moved over to the side area over here on the normal seat, I actually have a lot of headroom as well. If I put my head all the way back, it is hitting the back of this headliner over here, but generally, I actually have quite a lot of space back here, so this gives me a lot of hope for the upcoming sedan. It's going to be pretty spacious and roomy back here. And I just saw this back here that Dodge has fit another little Easter egg. It looks like either this vehicle or the old Charger or Challenger doing a burnout. So that is a fun little touch in the back of the vehicle. And of course, getting out is just as easy as getting in. We just pull the strap and the seat will move forward if it hasn't moved all the way forward already. And we can hop out of the vehicle just like that. But let's go take a look at the rest of this interior. First, we have a new key fob finally for this vehicle. This one has a carbon finish to it. It is actually quite nice. Feels kind of hefty, pretty good quality as well. And we can remote start it to have a quick listen at the Fratsonic exhaust startup here. Have a listen to this. Yeah, that is not quiet. So there is a stealth mode. You can actually put that in so you don't wake up everyone, because it genuinely is actually quite loud. Pretty cool sound though. We're gonna hop up front. Of course, we have keyless access as well, though I am gonna point out, and this is a little disappointing, no power mirrors on this particular one since we don't have that Plus Group package. So you gotta fold in the mirrors on this particular one at 78 grand. That's a little bit disappointing that we don't have that even just as a standard option, and you have to go into like a $5,000 package to get it. But at least they are heated, and we have blind spot. Opening it up, you can see we have a nice big massive door panel. I mean, like, this thing is feet long. It is huge. And speaking of said doors, we actually have this really interesting pattern design over here, and with that Plus package has really cool ambient lighting throughout the entire door and dash, but we don't have that on this one. We also are missing out on the carbon and suede package, which really amps up the level of quality on the interior. So a lot of harder plastics in this particular one. Even this whole panel right here is plastic, though we do have a stitched upper portion over here, which is nice with red contrast stitching. We also have a pretty big storage cubby on the side over here. And since we have door latches, there is an emergency release on the lower area over here. But close up this door. Pretty solid funk, actually. I'm impressed they were able to do that with such a large door. And we find ourselves in the all-new interior. It's in remote start mode, so let's power it on. We have a literal power switch in the center area over here. It is so loud, it literally shakes the entire vehicle. So don't underestimate this, fake exhaust style system here. So what are we looking at in this wild new interior? So up front here, we actually have a heads-up display on this one, which is huge. I wish it displayed a little bit more information, but it is pretty crystal clear, so I can't complain too much there. Like I mentioned, on the door panel over here, we have pretty simple switches for our 2 windows. The sedan obviously will have 4. We have lock and unlock buttons here, which don't make a sound, which is a little bit odd, though we do have a light there. Again, manual controls for our mirrors since we don't have that Plus package. Though the design of this general interior, I think, is quite nice. I really like this wraparound shape over here. We have a Daytona badge up there for this EV, and like I said, with the Plus Group, all of this stuff lights up at night, which, love it or hate it, I think it looks pretty cool, pretty futuristic. I like this little floating panel over here with the stitching on it, which blends right into our new air vents, which are actually quite sleek and very easy to use. I'm glad they didn't do anything crazy there. Even our hazard switch is in the shape of that little Fratsonic logo over there, so that's pretty cool as well. But you're going to notice there's a lot of buttons on this interior, and that may anger some of you guys. So you're going to notice there's only one stalk here, so that is going to blend our wiper controls with our turn indicators and high beams. And we're also going to find the rest of our headlight controls down here, actually. So we have our just daytime running lights, auto, and headlight on. We can also open our hood over there to just, stare at stuff since there's no engine there. And we have a dimmer control switch over here. Now, also new in this vehicle is the steering device, which, you know, some people call it a squircle, square circle thing, but it's definitely interesting and a huge departure, I think, from the old chunky steering wheels. It's a very thin rim, honestly. I'm glad that it is still leather stitched and wrapped, though I like the red contrast stitching on here. But yeah, this took me a whole week to honestly really get used to it, how the vehicle drives. And on our left-hand side here, we're going to find controls for our calls, as well as our digital cluster controls. Right-hand side is our adaptive cruise control with full steering assist as well. Lower down here, we're going to find our drive mode selector, which I actually really like the placement of, and our power shot button. So that's going to give us boost for a certain amount of time, a little bit of extra power there. So that's a cool little button to have on this EV. We are also getting paddle shifters on the vehicle. So this is going to control our 3 stages of regen, which you can find right here. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, and that will control how intense our regenerative braking is on the all-new Dodge Charger Daytona. And another fun feature about this interior actually is this thing right here. This is what Dodge is calling the pistol grip shifter. And honestly, love it or hate this stupid silly marketing name, it's actually quite nice to hold. It's leather wrapped as well. You can put it into reverse, neutral, and drive, obviously, and it just is a nice place to hold. I'm glad there wasn't like a stupid dial or a little flicking knob over here. They actually kept an actual shifter in this car, and I like it. It actually works pretty nice, and of course it'll make a little bit more sense with the gas vehicles, though I don't think we'll ever see another manual in this car whatsoever, so a little unfortunate there. We do have a stitching panel on the side over here. This is a nice touch, and like I said, if you opted for that carbon and suede package, this whole trim over here will be carbon fiber, which right now it's just this kind of satin plastic, but thankfully it's not gloss black plastic, so I'm glad they kind of went away with that. But we are also missing out on another few features in here. So there's no wireless charger, since we don't have that plus group package, which again is a little bit disappointing. And we're also missing out on a few other little touches here. Like, we don't get a 360 camera, we only get a reversing camera. And let me tell you, this car needs a 360 camera. It is huge. Really, really big. So that would be nice to have, but again, you got to opt for it. We do have parking sensors, lane keep assist off button, traction control off, and a launch button down here, as well as 2 USB-C ports, which is nice. And these cup holders, I honestly would like to have a little bit deeper. They're a little too wide, I think, and sometimes with the amount of torque this car creates, it kind of just pushes your cup back and it could just spill everywhere. So definitely be conscious of that. And thankfully, our armrest is nice and padded as well, opening it up. Decent amount of storage in here. You're getting a 12-volt socket, as well as a port right here for your drive experience recorder. So you plug a USB stick in here to save the videos from your recorder, which I think is pretty cool. And then we got to talk about the technology in this vehicle. So like I said, I think the design of this interior is honestly just fantastic. It looks great. It's fresh, modern, sleek. Generally, everything works pretty well. But what I think needs a massive improvement is the technology in this car. And I know it's the first just beginnings of the all-new Dodge Charger, but there's some stuff we got to talk through here. So up front on our digital cluster, that is about it. You're gonna see you can change these center modes here to a few different panels. It's a little bit slow to kind of operate in coordination with the buttons, so we have a whole bunch of performance stuff right here. Now you can press this button here, I guess twice, and it kind of does this little animation, and it makes it in this very plain view. But the graphic quality on this is just a little bit disappointing. It looks very low resolution, and I wish it wasn't. This is a 2025 ground up new vehicle. I think they could have done a little bit better on that. The heads-up display is actually clearer than this screen right here. So Dodge, if you're hearing this, I know you can improve this probably over time, but one thing to note there. Now, if you want to get a different gauge view, you actually have to change your drive mode here. So you can do that by either pressing the drive mode button, and that's going to pop up the full drive mode panel in here. And since we have the track package, we get that drag and track mode as well, in addition to sport, wet, snow, auto, and custom. But you can also just simply do it by pressing these up and down buttons as well. So have a listen to what happens when I put it into sport, because the Fratsonic exhaust not only gets louder, we get a unique display. So that sound gets deeper, traction control gets turned off, and we actually get a little bit of a slightly different display over here. Same thing with track, much deeper sound. It takes a little bit of time to transition, but again, we get a little bit of a different display layout. You can't really tell on camera, but the seats are literally vibrating. It is that loud. And when you're on it, and I can actually rev it now, it's so loud, I feel like the whole car underneath is shaking. It's genuinely kind of a cool experience. And drag mode somehow gets even louder. This is like, I think, louder, or if not around as loud as the Challenger Hellcat Red Eye. And now we get the full Fratsonic logo right there in the center. And we can see our power flow from the front and rear motors, as well as our range impact from all the stuff in the vehicle. But there is no charging information in this vehicle. This is it. It doesn't show you how fast the vehicle's charging and DC fast charging. It just gives you an estimated time, and I've honestly seen it not be accurate in my course of testing over the course of this week. This needs to be worked on. If they're going to make an actual EV and do it right, this definitely needs to be worked on a lot. So hopefully we'll see improvements of that over time. But there's some issues I think that are here. So they have decided to put the heated, cooled, and heated steering wheel seat controls as these buttons on the side over here. They are not real buttons, they are touch buttons, and they're also not haptic. So you really have to find the right point to press them, and you really got to press it well, because sometimes it doesn't work all the time, as you can see right there. Thankfully, you can still go into like the climate settings as well in the vehicle and adjust that stuff if you don't want to touch it, but then there's like 3 layers of the same button there. So I guess there's redundancy, but I'm not a big fan of how these are laid out right there. I'm also not a big fan of how the physical climate controls buttons are laid out either. I'm grateful that there are physical buttons, but it's a weird kind of haptic panel that in the right sun conditions, well, I guess the wrong sun conditions, you just cannot see this. All the colors are completely washed out sometimes during the daytime, especially in bright sunlight, and it kind of makes this panel a little bit useless. And it also has an interesting haptic feedback to it. So it's kind of hard to see, but if you keep pressing it like really quickly, it doesn't do the haptic anymore. So right now it doesn't, and then it stops. So it's a little bit inconsistent with that. I'm glad, again, there's physical buttons, but it just feels like maybe the software behind it needs to be a little bit improved or something. Thankfully, we do have a physical control for our glove box, which is a decent size as well. No silly buttons to open that and close. But overall, this interior I think is really good in terms of space. There is so much space to spread out around here. It's so wide. I can't even touch the other end of the vehicle. It's that far away. And these seats are actually, I think, quite comfortable personally. We have a lot of bolstering supports. We have side bolster adjustments. We have thigh. There's a lot of support here. My only complaint is that the driving position is just too high. It's not low like this in the Challenger. This is my eye level right here, guys. This right here is my eye level. I feel like I'm sitting on top of the car a little bit, which makes, using this steering wheel a little bit odd at first. I think getting used to that driving position was one of the biggest things that it took me over the course of this week. And I'm very curious to see if the gas one will have a lower driving position, as the battery pack won't be under the floor area over here. So that we're definitely gonna have to wait and see. So let's go take it out on a drive now, see how it handles out on the road. We'll kind of go through all these drive modes, and I'll kind of hunker down on my opinion that this is more of a super GT car versus a straight up good old American muscle car. Now, day-to-day driving around town, this thing is actually fantastic. It's really comfortable. I think the really high weight makes this a pretty cushy car over a lot of road surfaces. Even with this track package with the adaptive dampers, it does a really good job at splitting that difference between street damping versus track stiff damping. There is a noticeable difference in body control. The other thing here is steering is actually very quick. It responds very well to steering inputs. And the regen is good as well. You can see we have 3 stages of regen when we're not in eco mode. For whatever reason, when we are in eco mode, as we are right now, it doesn't allow you to use the paddle shifters, which make you think you'd want to use them in eco mode, but I don't know, strange little logic there behind that. The only downside to that though really is there's a lot of weight this thing has to manage at the same time. So with that additional amount of weight, the steering inputs are sharp, but there's a lot of body roll and lean into a lot of corners. So you feel like you have that really 5,500 or almost 6,000 pounds here that we're carrying around underneath the vehicle. And then we also have that Fratsonic exhaust system, which I've actually quite enjoyed over the course of this week. I'm going to pop it into sport mode right now so you can really hear it a little bit more, and you'll notice the only thing that I wish is that there actually were simulated gear shifts, but there's not. It's just like drones up. Have a listen to this. So as you can see, as you accelerate, it just continues and progresses forward with that rumbling getting louder and more intense. I really wish they did something what the Ioniq 5 did with that simulated shift logic there. I think that would have been a little bit cooler to do. And the Ioniq 5N also has, it makes you feel the shifts. If you hit the rev limiter or artificial rev limiter, the car actually like stutters and jerks. It's really cool how they did it. I think that would have made this experience even better. It is really futuristic, it's a gimmick kinda, but you can hear it outside as well, and I think that's actually really cool, and it's insanely loud outside. And just general handling characteristics are that of a big grand tourer. It's comfortable. It's actually really quiet in here, which impressed me. There is some road noise you feel, but you know, there's still a lot I like about this car. Like I said, it has that really nice, comfortable, big, you know, boulevard cruiser experience that has that straight line muscle, straight line speed. But I like to say, you know, this is more of like a GT car, because a lot of those muscle car-esque features, you know, it being able to just rip a burnout or, you know, do a donut at will isn't really possible here. You have to go in and press a whole bunch of buttons. You know, even the drive modes, you got to go in, dial in all your stuff. If you want to go into more aggressive things in this setting system over here, you can even, you know, throw on your adaptive cruise control now and have it steer you. So, you know, you have to go in and activate drift mode. You have to go in and select how much drift you even want, you know, how much slip you want. Same thing with launch control and race prep. You have to go in and activate all these things. So it's a little bit more, you know, safeguarded, I would say. There's a little bit more steps to get to some more of those performance-esque features that you may want to just, you know, have it a whim, which something like Challenger or Charger Hellcat or Hellcat Red Eye or before could just do. And sure, those had those additional settings as well, but just from the get-go, out of that package, you can go do all that stuff. This car, out of the package, it's incredibly quick, stable, and can put all that power down pretty much all the time, since you have all-wheel drive all the time as well. So there's that thing to consider there. You know, is it a bad vehicle? I don't think so. I think this has good bones. You know, this is going to be a really great starting point for what's to come with the all-new Charger lineup. We have the four-door, we have the gas engines, we have who knows what else could be coming down the road. There's a lot of stuff baked into this architecture here. The software 100% needs to be worked on and improved as well, but I like this pistol shifter. I like how big and roomy it is. I like that there's a new interior design after all these years. There's still a lot to like here, and I think that's what it's come to me at the end of the day with this vehicle. You know, hold off on the EV, I think I would say. I think the 6-packs are worth waiting out for. The 4-door is going to be worth waiting out for. And this Scat Pack EV model is really, I think, an interesting and unique first start. But is it a great EV? It's an okay EV. But at the end of the day, it is actually a pretty good, big, grand tourer. But then throw it into that category, there's a lot of other vehicles that do the same, if not stuff way better as an EV as well. So this is my week of the all-new Dodge Charger Daytona EV. It's a lot of mixed emotions, I think mixed opinions. You know, still learning a lot of these new things in this vehicle and getting used to them has taken a lot of time over this week as well. But I'm happy to leave you guys my opinions here. And as always, stay tuned for more coming on Allcarnews, and thank you guys for watching. Cheers.